First thing I want to do is make sure we introduce our special guests that are joining with me here up on the front of our gathering. And to my left, or wherever you're sitting or facing, on this side, is a good friend of mine, Pat Kissane. Patrick Kissane is a Deputy Chief of Police in this town or borough of Fort Lee. And not only is he a Deputy Chief of Police for many years here in Fort Lee, a police officer serving the needs in the community of Fort Lee, but he's also the president of the New Jersey School Resource Officers Association. And I know there's a lot of young students here that should know and be aware of what school resource officers are. But school resource officers are police officers assigned to the different municipalities throughout our state and really the whole country, and assign themselves within the school system to network with the environment, not only having an armed presence and a police officer in uniform in the school, but really developing a relationship and a network with the students and the environment of the academic setting, whatever town or city they're in. So, Patrick, welcome. To my right, or this side, is Mr. Nicholas DeMauro. Mr. Nicholas DeMauro used to be a police officer, a detective in New Milford. New Milford is a township here in Bergen County. But Nicholas also retired from active service with the New Milford Police Department, and now for close to 30 years has been running an organization, a drug prevention program education. Used to be called DARE, D-A-R-E. Maybe some of you went through that program when it was in existence some years ago. But now the new program for the last 3 or 4 years is called LEAD, L-E-A-D, Law Enforcement Against Drugs. It's a program where police officers network with police departments and school systems to come into the school system and network with the children and talk about the dangers of drug abuse and violence. A great program, not only here in New Jersey, but across the United States. To my extreme right, or way over on that side, is Mr. Jinsung Kim. Jinsung Kim, many of you know, he's a part of this coalition for quite some time. He was a detective investigator for the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, just retired just a few short months ago. And Jinsung is a private practicing attorney. So he is too young to retire, but he's kind of going on to his next platform, whatever platform it will be. So welcome Nicholas and Jinsung as well. At this time, I'd like to ask all our executive board members to please rise and be recognized that you are here supporting this program and being a part of the coalition. Okay, first order of business is going to be back to our special guests for them to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about who they are and what they represent, and just some brief comments from them. After the special remarks from our special guests, we will have the interns come up here and present their programs, and we will hopefully have some good remarks and questions and, that you can answer and give us all. And then we'll have some type of dialogue that'll go the rest of the evening. We do have a special guest that came here a little earlier and had to go to another meeting, but hopefully he'll be back. His name is Mark Sokolich, and he's the mayor of this town of Fort Lee. So hopefully we'll see the mayor before the evening is over. So this time, once again, I'm going to ask that my special guest, Patrick Kissane, Deputy Police Chief here in Fort Lee, and also the President of the New Jersey School Resource Officers Association. Patrick.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening. So first, I'd like to thank you all for inviting myself and the Chief of Police, who couldn't be here, but I'm here on his behalf, and also for inviting the mayor. As the Chief Kugler said, the mayor actually did come here. He was here early at 6:30, and he got called off to another meeting. And he called me personally to say that he would try to make it back, but he would let me know. So I'm keeping my phone out to make sure that I hear from him and if he gets hold of me. So unfortunately, he couldn't be here right now, but if he can make it, he will. And on his behalf, I'll say that I'm sure he'd be very proud to be here representing Fort Lee and congratulating the students who are being recognized tonight. So just a little background on myself. I am a Deputy Chief with the Fort Lee Police Department. I've been in law enforcement for 28 years. I've worked in every division in the police department, and I know many in this room here and the kids here are interested in law enforcement. I've worked in every division of the police department. I've worked every job pretty much in the police department, so I have quite a bit of experience. But the best job I had was actually as a juvenile officer in the juvenile division and as a school resource officer. So I spent 5 years working in the Fort Lee High School for our wonderful singer that just sang for us. I was an SRO, school resource officer in our high school. And it brings me a lot of pride in the fact that I got to work with kids in my career, and arguably it was the best part of my career. So for those of you that are here and being recognized tonight, congratulations. For those of you that aren't being recognized, I'll recognize you now as well and say congratulations to you as well for expressing an interest in law enforcement, for taking not only the time and energy it takes to get involved in this internship program, but we need more people, particularly young people, interested in law enforcement. It's a great career. There's so many different aspects of it, from local, state, federal, and all kinds of different types of law enforcement. That it's a shame that your numbers aren't quadrupled. I would hope that you guys go out and spread the good word about all the nice police officers you're meeting and the good work that they do, and hopefully you pass that on to your friends and relatives who may not know about as much about our profession as hopefully you guys do now. So again, I'd like to thank the chief for inviting me. I'd like to say congratulations to the executive board here of the organization for running such a great event, and I look forward to hearing our presenters tonight. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Kissane, and I want to also acknowledge that the whole borough of Fort Lee supports this organization, as you know, and if you look on the front cover, the chief was here at our last meeting, along with our councilman, Peter Suck, and tonight the mayor and the deputy police chief, and if you were here last month, I know most of you were, and you heard what the chief said and the council member, Fort Lee is a representative of the Korean American community. Many Korean officers of Fort Lee, and they encourage the employment of Korean Americans, not only in governments and in private businesses in Fort Lee, but also on the police department. So thank you, Deputy Chief Kissane and your police department for wonderful work supporting and promoting not only this organization, but the Korean American community. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to my other side of my body here, a man called Nicholas DeMauro. Nicholas DeMauro, like I said, used to be a police officer, detective in New Milford, New Jersey, and now serves for close to 30 years with a program that brings drug education and prevention throughout schools, not only here in New Jersey, but throughout the United States. Please give your attention, Nicholas DeMauro.
Thank you, Chief. Really appreciate being here. I'm honored to be here. Thank you to the Board of Directors, and most importantly, the young men and women who are here from various high schools throughout the area and supporting law enforcement and the Korean heritage. And as Chief said, and Chief Kugler is also the chairman of the Board of Directors of LEAD, so technically Chief's my boss, okay? But his support for the cause, and we are a relatively new organization. We're here to serve all community members, not just children. Now, with our On the Street program or our In the Classroom program, we're proud to be our In the Classroom program. We're proud to be the only organization that serves proven effective curricula K through 12 in the United States, which is a great opportunity for us to provide communities the services of LEAD. And you know, it's obviously a major issue of safety in the schools. We work very closely with SROs. We work very closely on the street with dealing with the issues with police officers trying to address the heroin and opiate problem in an empathetic, professional manner, not just locking everyone up. although we need to, if necessary, we also have to look at the issue in more of a compassionate way and make sure that we're providing services to all individuals regardless of where you came from and what you believe in. So I'm honored to be here tonight. This is my second time here. I hope to be here again next month and keep up with everyone. So God bless, and if you have any questions, I'll be around till the end of the night. Thank you, Chief.
Had the pleasure of working along Nicholas tomorrow for quite some time, not only in the current role with Lee, but throughout many of those years that he served. And he actually brought the program to New Jersey. As many of you know, or may come to understand, drug prevention and education program started out in Los Angeles, basically California. And in, I guess, the late 1980s, close to 1990, Nicholas Tomorrow and a branch of law enforcement from Bergen County went out to California, became trained, and came back to Bergen County saying, we need to do this. And it's been close to 30 years fast forward. And you know, our society, our young students, yourself, you know, you're in the middle of an epidemic, and it's not new. It was there in the 60s, it was there in the 70s, it was there in the 80s, and it's still there today. But it's building up resistance and education in each and one of your brains to make your own decision. Because your mothers, your fathers, your law enforcement officials, your government representatives, they're not going to be with you every step of the way. They're arming you with information, educating you now, and you make those decisions whether you're going to make a good one or a bad one, and that's all what this program is about, giving students a better chance to educate themselves and prevent them from going in a spiral, because that's what drug abuse is when we enter it in our lives. It's a spiral, and you go nowhere, and you go nowhere very fast. So thank you, Nicholas Tomorrow, for all you do with that program. My next special guest and a good friend of this organization is Jinsung. Jinsung is like I said, a retired investigator from the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, private attorney still. And Jinsung goes back many, many years with not only law enforcement here in Bergen County, but knowing a lot of municipal police officers and agencies. He's been involved with all facets, all roles in the prosecutor's office, and he's a good friend of this organization, of the Korean American community, because he's Korean himself. And I've asked Jinsung to speak and speak in American language so I can understand what you're saying. Here you go, Jinsung.
Thank you. I think many of you know me already. I've been here several times before. I retired from the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office after 25 years of service. 25 years ago when I started, I don't think there was any law enforcement officer of Korean heritage in this state. At least not that I know of. I probably was the first one to retire after full 25 years of service. While I was at the prosecutor's office, I've done my rounds in different sections and squads. Grand jury trial, juvenile, fraud, organized crime. I've done them all. And of course, I conducted many and participated in many different types of investigations. So my experience is unique in that I am the first Korean American to start in the law enforcement business, and I know many of you today are interested in law enforcement and did your research in projects in law enforcement. I'm thrilled to hear them. I heard them. Some of you present your project last time. I look forward to listen to it again very carefully. What I can tell you is that any of you are interested in my experience, or if I can offer any guidance, I welcome any of your calls, and I will make time for you. And I guess there will be sort of my small contribution to this endeavor. Feel free to contact me, and I'll make time for you guys. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jinsung. And Jinsung, like I mentioned, good friend of this organization, and if anybody encourages people to become more active in their communities, in their governments, in their law enforcement departments, wherever they live. Jinsung definitely shares that. So Jinsung, thank you so much. I want to recognize Officer Daniel Song. Officer Daniel Song is not only one of the key members of the executive board, but is also recently graduated from the Special Law Enforcement Officers Academy in Bergen County, and he's a member of mine, or Saddlebrook Police Department. Daniel Song. Okay, well, at this time, we're going to have our two presenters. First one is Christine Kim. You heard her sing, so let's see if she could present. Wait a minute.